$1. We gonna have a good one, y'all.
Just vibe one time for your mind. Just vibe one time for your mind.
We are here. It's time for the season. Hey, man, we're back.
Finally.
We're here. Tom, the season's here, Tom. The season is here. Finally, bro. How do you feel, Tom?
Thank God.
Thank God, bro. Thank God.
We're finally here. This was just the off season from forever.
It's been miserable, Tom.
Ever.
Dog.
Yeah, I'm glad we're finally here. This is an exciting time.
Yo, look, you here with the Faithful Review. This your boy, the coach, here with my regular ace boon coon, Tom Jensen. And we got some topics for you today. Trent Williams is holding out. Brandon Aiyuk is holding in. And we're holding on. So we're just trying to figure out exactly where we stand with the current state of the Niners. Like I said before, we got some good topics for you, but let's just get right into it. All right. Yeah. Trent Williams is holding out. All right. And he's reportedly holding out due to dissatisfaction with his current contract, which he believes doesn't reflect his value as one of the league's top left tackles. Now that's the headline, but the context is, what we know is that Trent Williams is 36 years old, coming up on 37. He's coming into maybe his 13th year in the NFL. Possibly his 14th. No, it's 12th, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, year in the NFL. And he waited in the weeds. I mean, bravo, Trent. Bravo. The application of it all. You know, you got to be honest. For him to have waited and all summer, Tom, we talked about Brandon Aiyuk, a little bit of Christian McCaffrey, but for the most part, we talked about Brandon Aiyuk, little bit of Christian McCaffrey, the draft, the offensive line, and what did Trent Williams do? What did he do? He waited in the weeds. Not only did he wait in the weeds, but he sat back and let the Niners pass by one of the most talented, deep offensive line draft classes in decades. Yep. And in the midst of them sitting there, going back and forth with Brandon Aiyuk, Trent Williams waited in the weeds and finally struck right before training camp and said, look, you don't have anybody to replace me. You didn't do anything during the offseason. You didn't do anything during the draft. And you know that you need me. So you got to pay like you weigh. I think at this stage of the game, it's not a situation of if, but more of when. What did the Niners do? There's nobody on the market that even replicates remotely what Trent Williams gives us. And another thing, this is kind of dying on the vine. Oh, by the way, I'm one of the oldest players in the league, let alone linemen, and me not being at camp is going to take away from more of the annual games that I customarily take out for the year. Even if you get Trent back, it's not the fact that they get him back. But if they get him back too late, good luck on trying to get Trent up to speed with not having a training camp. Good luck with that.
It's not like Bosa. It's Trent needs a long ramp up.
Yeah.
And as it is that he will take days off anyway because he doesn't want to put his body in too much jeopardy in terms of injury or potential injury.
Right.
So Trent's waiting. But yeah, as Judd says in the chat that Trent's been negotiating. Yeah, I would agree with that. Trent's been talking with them, but Trent put the heat on them in terms of the public facing of this by now saying, I'm not going to report to camp.
Mm-hmm.
So he put the additional heat on now. I would agree that contract negotiations have been ongoing, but Trent now ups the ante on it by putting a public face on it as camp opens. That's what's going on. And it's a smart play by Trent because the Niners have no choice.
They have absolutely no choice.
Jalen Moore, come on. You cannot do this. But beyond that, this is something that Kyle's going to want to do anyway, because if you pay Trent, and he says, well, I have to pay Trent, so I skimp on the rest of the line. And Trent empowers Kyle's offensive line philosophy. It allows him to get away with what he does. And therefore, he has to keep Trent in order to maintain that philosophy that he's so in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, this continues. But from Trent's perspective, this was clearly going to come. And this is something that you and I talked about when Christian McCaffrey was extended, that there's going to be a line
Trent's
of
next.
impact veterans. We said Trent would be next, and here he is. And now it's going to be, here's Kittle, here's Fred. And it's a question of when they do that. I don't think it'll be now, but I think it will be down the line.
If you really want the proof, I know the literal shows. I scrubbed all of my old videos. So I only have but so many lives on my channel. The Wisdom of Tom and My Turn. If you go back into our Faithful Review shows and go back and watch My Turn with Trent Williams on the thumbnail, and The Wisdom of Tom with Tom on the thumbnail with those headphones, those are the two shows where we called this out. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it just dawned on me that we definitely called this in the summer. As soon as Christian McCaffrey wanted his money, we said Trent was next. Yeah. Trent's next.
Yeah.
Because he's not getting guaranteed money. He was the only veteran. He was the only veteran that mimicked the same situation of Christian McCaffrey. And it just seemed like a no-brainer due to the fact of the Niners don't value the position at in a first round fashion. I went back and I read some of the comments of Kyle Shanahan in his recent interview. And that's going to be a topic down the line in this show where we're really going to be able to delve into that, to actually bear that out, to see if it actually works. But for what it's worth, this offensive line, this is the only, outside of maybe, God, we are kind of top heavy. I was about to make I just thought about something, Tom. Tell me what you think about this. I was about to say that outside of the offensive line, there's no unit where if one player gets hurt, there's this massive of a drop off. But that's not true.
No, well, it's
if
true.
Fred Warner, let's talk about this.
Okay.
So we agree at offensive line, right? If Trent Williams is not here, there's a massive drop off, right, with the entire unit. All right,
it's disaster. Yeah.
So let's stick with that.
Okay.
If Nick Bosa does not play, that's a massive drop off for the defensive line. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah, they depend on him.
All right. If Fred Warner gets hurt, that is a massive drop off for what's left for the linebacking core. Would you not agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Entirely. And part of that is just that they don't have the backups.
Yeah.
That's what this comes down to, is lack of depth across the board.
Yeah.
You don't have depth at left tackle. You don't have depth at edge. You don't have depth at linebacker.
And I'm kind of coming up on it right now as we're talking about it. I got another one for you. If George Kittle goes down, that tight end room is completely different. Not even close. Yeah. Like, think about just how top heavy we truly are. Think about that. Where if one player from one unit goes down, look at what is left.
Yeah, it is barren. And so you have to question of just, even when they realized that it was a problem, they tried to draft it like tight end, where it's, you spent 2 draft picks on Latu, in Braden Willis. Latu has failed. Willis, maybe he'll descend. We'll see. There's some good reports on what Willis is doing right now. But still, it's just part of why Kyle hangs on to these veterans and gives them another bag is he doesn't have a choice. You can't turn to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
On the offensive line, literally, and that's a function of not making the picks. I mean, as Grant has pointed out, the Niners haven't drafted an offensive line or a tackle since 2021. And so that factors into all of this. Tight end, even when you did make picks, you whiffed. And so you're still in a hole there. Edge, hopefully Leonard Floyd helps you, but given his age, I mean, you've whiffed on Drake Jackson. You've whiffed on other attempts at getting the young guy. Mm-hmm. So I think that also factors into why they're doing this with extending veterans, because they have to. They don't have the talent.
Yeah, I think we're finally starting to see what that Trey Lance deal has done to the depth of this team. It didn't cost us core, but it cost us the depth. That's if you're thinking about, if I'm not angry with Trent at all about this. Like,
he's playing it smart. He's doing
what he played it smart. You know what I mean? Like, this was a smooth move, bro. Like, what do you expect from him? It's like, bro, if I was on the way out of my organization and I understood that, like, this was kind of like an ageism thing, like, oh, so I'm the old dude now? Yes, I'm waiting in the weeds and sitting back and using all of the information that I know from my experience, and I'm going to strike at the very best moment. And that's when you're at your weakest. And for what it's worth, I think that all of the contract negotiation with Brandon Aiyuk and then showing the fact that you're willing to chew bubblegum and talk at the same time, in the sense of, like, if I'm Trent, I'm like, oh, so you're going to go through all of this with the kid, and then you manage to have a little quick coffee break and get Christian $19 million? Oh, we need to talk. It's that easy? It's that quick?
When you know what you're doing.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
There's some veteran savvy to this move where he knows he has all the leverage in his favor and plays it.
Yeah.
You know the cards in your hand and when to play them, and that's what he's done.
Yeah.
And the Niners have no choice but to fold, because there is no option. There is no alternative. And we've seen what happens to this team when they don't have Trent Williams. They lose.
Yeah. I mean, right now, it's a savvy move. It's a veteran move. And honestly, if you're familiar with, are you familiar with NASCAR, Tom? Well, I am. I'm a stock car race fan, and drafting. If you're a teammate or if you're in a race and you want to save fuel, what you do is you get inside of the aerodynamic wind stream of the racer in front of you. And if you get directly behind him, there's a pocket of air where you get to ride off of his own aerodynamics, because his car is taking all of the brute force from the wind. And the pocket that's behind him allows you to get caught in that stream and use less power, but still maintain the amount of speed of the car that's in front of you. It's called drafting. And I feel like Trent Williams drafted on Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk has been burning fuel and going pedal to the metal all offseason. And Trent saw that and said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get behind you. I'm going to go ahead and get behind you, ride off your steam, pause, and get, we're going to go a couple of laps. And you know what? Right when we get to lap 490, when there's 10 laps to go, I'm going to break off. I got enough gas to outpace you now, kid. There's no way that you can even keep up with me. I got a whole tank of gas and you're on 1/4. Even if you try to keep up with my pace, you're going to burn out. And I think that's what Christian did. And I think that's what Trent did. I think they waited, let him burn up all of the brute force of the organization, get everything nice and soft, and then they struck off of Brandon Aiyuk basically shaking up the leaves. It's a slick move, bruh.
Well, it's what a veteran does, and the veteran, knowing that he's got leverage on his side, knowing that the team doesn't have alternatives, and then you just stick in that slipstream, and then you make your move. It's true of NASCAR, and it's true of my sport, track. Same thing. It's just you let somebody else break the wind, you get behind them, and then you don't put in nearly as much effort, and then you step out and you make your move and go, and you're gone. And that's what Trent has done. And more power to him. It's a smart move, and he knows that he has all the power. The Niners can't do anything; they are powerless. They have to pay him, and they will. And right now, Trent is not paid in the top 12 of the league. He will be now. He'll be top 3. It'll be guaranteed, and he'll get more money going forward. And then the Niners just have to hope that Trent can stay healthy, and we'll see how that goes. But right now, Trent is missing 3 games a year. What happens when you pay Trent all this money and then it's 5 games a year? That's the problem going forward. But that's the bet Kyle has made, is that you don't have the luxury of saying, as Walsh did, I'll let a player go a year too early. Kyle's letting him go until they can't go any further because he doesn't have any options.
Yeah. So moving into the next topic. Speaking of Brandon Aiyuk, I had an emotional outburst on Brandon Aiyuk yesterday on Grant's show because I am just so beside myself with what he has been doing this entire offseason. But now that I've had a chance to kind of like come back to myself, Brandon Aiyuk has shown up on time after basically having one of the most contentious negotiations that we've seen as of late in this regime to sign his deal. He's holding in, which means that he is in the building, but he is not practicing. He's showing up to practices. I would presume that he's going to meetings. I mean, why are you there if you're not at least going to do the classroom stuff? Yeah. But he's in fact not practicing. So here's my take, man. You know what, Tom? You go, and then I'm gonna just go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Well, I saw what you said yesterday, and I agreed with it. It's basically that Aiyuk is saying, I want. He's a kid in a candy shop in a toy store saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. I want my bag. I want it to be more than that guy because I'm better than him. I want a spotlight because I haven't been given enough juice, enough ink. I want my inner circle and my peeps on a video. I'm going to demand a trade. I'm going to show up to camp because I don't want to be fined $50K a day. Mm-hmm. There's no strategy or purpose to it. It's aimless. It's self-interest everywhere. And so the way I put it is it's the hungry guy at a restaurant who looks at a menu and then he says yes. That's what you're doing, dude. You have to pick your spots and hold to them. There needs to be a strategy to this. And so where's your agent in this? And why aren't you letting him take point? Why are you freestyling? Get out of the way. Let the agent negotiate the deal and get it done. You're getting in the way and you're preventing a deal from happening.
He's all over the place, Tom. Yeah. He's all over the place. I just, I am alpha. I am. I'm not even I'm disappointed. Like, look. When you are dealing with the court of public opinion, the last thing you do is speak. That is the last thing you do. And what is the first thing that he has done? Talk. Every time he has gotten a chance, I want to talk. So many different forms of talking, Tom. Let's talk through text. Let's talk through social media. Let's talk on podcasts. Let's talk on TikTok. Let's talk face to face. What are you doing, my man? None of that is tangible. None of that means anything. The only time that you could tangibly do something with the Niners is by not showing up to camp. Even Brandon requesting a trade, all right? That was the first real move. All of the other stuff didn't matter. It was just, honestly, just words. Brandon Aiyuk's meeting with them. Brandon Aiyuk is, he's with Jaden Daniels. Brandon Aiyuk is showing practice film. Brandon Aiyuk is doing podcasts. Like, all of that's cool, but that's still like icing on the cake. That's the tail wagging the dog. That don't matter. What mattered is him officially requesting a trade. That mattered. Okay. Yeah. And when you do that off of months of you posturing as if this is the type of, not only do you deserve the money that you want, but you're the type of player that warrants that type of money, right? It wasn't even like a money situation. It was just like, no, I'm this player. I deserve X. It don't got nothing to do with the number, really. It's because of who I am. And for you to finally, and we had shows before this time. We talked, all of us, hey, man, what do you think it's about? What do you think? Hey, does BA show up to camp? No way. No way.
Yeah,
not after
all of us
what
said no. Yeah.
No way.
Because strategically, it made sense to not show.
Yeah.
But what did he choose to do? He chose to show. Why? Because there's a $50K a day fine. He didn't want to pay it.
Yeah.
Everything that Aiyuk has done has been about self-interest, and all of it has been a lack of patience. He's trying to force things to happen. Mm-hmm. Niners don't do that. I mean, he should have talked to Debo where Debo said, look, they're not going to do anything until you get close to camp. Yeah. Even then, they're not going to do anything real until camp begins. Expect that. Shut up. Get out of the way. Let your agent talk. And Aiyuk wanted the spotlight. He wanted to be able to say, here I am. And that only hurt him. It's a lack of patience, a lack of maturity, a lack of strategy. Let your agent talk for you.
Come on, man. Come on, man. It's just like we're trying to take you as an honest broker, BA. And for you to show up to camp on time, he didn't even show up late. Like, he didn't even he didn't even give us any suspense. Like, no. He showed up. And it's like, bro, you showed up to do what? To do what, Brandon?
To save
what are you here for?
$50,000 a day. That's what.
Come on, man. What are you here for? What are you going to do? You're going to be here for all of camp and then not play on week 1? Is that what you're going to do? Stop. Maybe. Stop. No, Tom. No.
It's not what he should do, Coach. Is it?
He's going to sign. Hurry up. It's going to sign, Tom.
If I would maintain, if the Niners make a move toward him in any direction toward him, even if it's not exactly what he wants, even if it's not the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal plus that he wants, if it's a movement toward Aiyuk, they offer you more money, take it.
Yeah.
Will he? We'll see. Now, I've been predicting all along that he's going to hold out for his Amon-Ra St. Brown plus money. Niners are going to put a 5th-year option on it, and he's going to hold out at least week 1. I hope I'm wrong, because the Niners' history would say they will offer more late. And I hope that Aiyuk's agent is smart enough to say, take this.
Yeah. I mean, what's going to be egg on his face is when he did all of this for $1 million or $1.8 million. It's like, so wait a minute. So the Niners went from 26.6 to what, 28.1? So wait a minute. You did all of this for a $1 million delta. Like, come on, bro. Like, I just feel like BA hurt his cachet with this because we were all listening. All listening. I listened to everything, every tweet, every post. Like, man, BA's pissed. Man, he sounds serious, bro. Like, I was taking you for your word. And for you to show up, bro, you're not going to look like, let's take the headlines out of it. Like, let's get out of like Twitter world. All right. My man, you are not going to go look your teammates in the face and be in the locker room and be in the meetings and be standing outside and watching the plays. And then all of a sudden say, you know what? All right, guys, Jets are coming up next Monday. I'll be in the stands. I'll be on the sideline. You don't have the stomach for that. You don't even have the stomach not to show up after you ask for a trade request. You think that you got the stomach to stand on national television on the sidelines with a gold chain on and a beanie? And you think that the fans are going to be okay with that? Look, the time for talking about money is almost over. That's why the move that Trent made was so savvy, because he understands that it has to get done quick. It's got to get done quick. Yeah. You're not going to let me miss camp. You got to get this done quick, right? And that's why Trent chose to have his conversation when he did. Right now, this is a 2 to 3 week thing, maybe even shorter.
Well, and he understood that that's the window when the Niners negotiate is during camp.
Yeah.
He knew that. Aiyuk hasn't shown a knowledge of that. And so I have to question, where's his agent in all of this telling him, look, here's what's going to go down. Be prepared for that. And don't say anything. Instead, it's say something every single time because he wanted the attention. And then demanding a trade and then palling with Jim Daniels and all the rest of this stuff. It's ill-conceived, it's aimless, it's scattershot. And then you show up and have a hold-in because you want to avoid paying the fine. Come on.
It's not a good look, man.
It doesn't show any commitment at all. It only shows self-interest.
It's Bush League. It's Bush League.
Yes.
It's so amateur. It's Bush League. It's like, so, wait a minute. Top 3 receiver ask for a trade and then he shows up literally days later? Who does that? Like, you don't even have the ego of a receiver. Like at least a receiver thinks more of himself to say, no, this whole show stops without me. You showing up shows your role on this offense. Shows that you are a member of the offense. You're a good practitioner of the things that you do. But you're replaceable, bro. You're replaceable.
It's Aiyuk cutting off his own knees.
Yeah.
And it's just, what are you doing? Think this through. There's no one that's thinking this process through. His agent needs to set him aside and say, I got this now. Get out of the spotlight and let's just make sure that this happens. I will make sure that the best deal that you can get is something that I can negotiate with Lynch. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
But Aiyuk doesn't have the maturity to know that he needs to step away and be quiet. Especially now. This is the negotiation window. Let your agent do his work.
Not only that, but think about it this way. If BA would have not said anything the entire summer, right? Nothing. And showed up to camp and held in. Let's just change nothing about what's happened. Let's say they've gone back and forth. The Niners have said no. BA has said yes. Let's say all of that's true. But we just know nothing. That's it. Yeah. We just don't know anything. Okay. And BA shows up to camp, right? And he holds in. And it's like, yo, Brandon Aiyuk is showing up to 49ers camp, but he is not practicing. Do you know how much pressure that would have put on the 49ers to get that deal done? With none of us knowing any of this, none of us knowing about how Brandon Aiyuk feels, about his contentious nature with the team, none of that stuff. If Brandon wouldn't have said a word, but just would have did what he did, come to camp, but just say, hey, look, this is my first gesture to show how I really feel. I don't need to tweet about this. I don't need to do a 1-hour pivot podcast where they don't even know that I'm coming, right? Which it's forced. I don't need to force a face-to-face meeting with the I don't need to do any of that. I'm going to do what I'm going to make a move where it's multifaceted. It's bang for your buck. I'm not going to do something that I only got to do once and I have to replicate it over and over again. I'm going to do something one time and it's going to hit on so many levels that you're going to be scrambling. And that is, I'm not going to say a word. And when I come to camp, I'm holding out.
Well,
I'm not practicing.
And that would have given him maximum leverage.
Tons of leverage.
Full support of the fan base.
You know why? Because we're hungry for football right now. We're like, whoa, wait a minute. Brandon's not practicing? What's going on? What have you guys been doing all summer? right? But now Brandon's not practicing, and you know what the response is? I've had it. Enough. I've got nothing left. Like, come on, bro. You just asked for a trade a week ago, man. Like, what else do you want? Now you're here. Come on, bro. Like, he's hurting himself.
And he has throughout. And he needs to be understanding that had you been silent, had he done the scenario you just laid out.
Yeah.
The Niners respect that. The fans respect that. And it has maximum leverage to get a deal done. Mm-hmm. Now you do it, and it's Diva, he's just concerned about not paying the fine.
Yeah.
The perception is 180. And all of it is because you wanted attention too badly.
Yeah.
I want the attention of everybody focusing on me. It's all about me. It's my show.
Yeah. Okay? And then when oh my God.
What did that get you? Nothing. No deal was done. You have less leverage. If you had been quiet, you would have had a ton of leverage and public support. Now you got neither because you wanted attention too badly. And it's just keep your eye on the goal. He never has. He's kept the eye on whatever his self-interest is in the moment.
Man, you know what's wild about this is that Brandon tried to make this a manifesto about worth and work ethic, about how hard he works and who he truly is as a receiver. But the moment you showed us who you were is when you didn't want to spend money on your own cause, but you want the Niners to pay you. You want the Niners to pay you, but when it's time for you to spend your own money to show how serious your words were all summer, you broke. That's why I don't think Brandon Aiyuk deserves $30 million. Because when it came time for you to put up your own money that you was going to get back, if you really believe, what'd you do? Yeah. What'd you do? You showed up because you didn't want to pay the tab. You didn't have the courage of your own convictions. So how do you want us to?
Or the Niners.
You don't believe. How am I going to believe?
How's John Lynch going to believe? How's Kyle Shanahan going to believe? How are his teammates going to believe?
Come on, man. It's like
this is a mistake on so many different levels. And it's all unnecessary. All you have to do is listen to your agent and shut up. That's all you had to do. But no, your ego demanded attention, and you wanted the attention all off season. And it was only on you. You got exactly what you wanted in terms of the attention, and you got none of what you wanted in contract. And that's on you. That's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk big and bad all off season. But when it came time to pay some money, when it came time to lose a little bit of skin in the game, okay, when it came time to say, all right, you've been talking all summer, bro, but now is a chance for you to really show that you mean business. You show up walking around. I'm done. Hurry up and sign, man. Hurry up and sign.
That's
hurry up. Jamar Chase wouldn't have did this. Justin Jefferson wouldn't have did this. AJ Brown wouldn't have did this. These are the people that you're saying that this is the echelon of receivers and players that you say that you're a part of. You don't handle your business right, man.
No. Well, if you think you're in that company, act the part.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
He's only hurt himself. I just hope that the Niners make a final move toward him, and then he can sign and this will all end.
Yeah.
But his agent needs, this is another aspect of this, is the agent needs to take leadership too. He needs to step in and say, my turn. Give the ball to me. Let me handle this. Let's get this across the finish line. The agent has to know your client has been freestyling all off season to his own detriment.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in a box. Get the deal done.
Yeah. I just the deal's gonna get done. He's in the building. I mean, he doesn't even want to lose the money to that on the accrued fines. Dude, you're gonna sign. Just take the money. So
but when you're not even willing to bet on yourself, come on.
That's how I see this. That's how I see this. It's like, all right, Brandon, what you're saying is cool. Like, I get it. You think you're the best. You think you're not respected. You think you're better than other players. You think you should get third. All of that is fine. But I'm looking for some type of investment into into your rhetoric. Like I'm looking for, that's like me saying, Tom, hey man, I love this YouTube show. I love this YouTube show. I love this YouTube show. But I'm talking to you on a goddamn Nokia phone the whole time. It's like, Coach, are you going to get a mic? Coach, are you going to get a camera? Like, what? It's like, dude, yo, I love my fans. Yo, guys, I love the support. I love the support. And I'm sitting here in the Taliban basement with like Campbell's soup Wi-Fi. And I'm like, yo, hold on, y'all. I'm eating during the show. Like, come on, bro. Make it make sense. I just
commit to your
team, man.
Commit to your teammates. Commit to yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I'll tell you this. You know, we're on Aiyuk watch. All right. And I believe the deal's going to get done. Again, I'm taking it back to the original premise. Well, not premise, but my original thoughts on this. And that is, it's about the guaranteed money. He's going to get big guaranteed money. Or he may get it in deals in years now because Trent wants guaranteed money. So there's only been so much
guaranteed money.
Yeah,
they know the game now.
Yeah, they know the game.
Where it's at.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you this right now. When those deals get done, I don't know what the numbers will be, but I can guarantee you this: there's about to be massive void years on these deals.
Yeah,
because of when they're getting done. There's no way around it. They don't have the money up front to pay these dudes right now and to pay them legit. They got to put in void years to make these deals happen. Ghost years, meaning that these guys are going to be long gone and we're still going to be paying their asses. So,
so it's once all these veterans are played out and they're done on the field, the Niners are going to crash and burn like no tomorrow. You're going to have all these void years. You're going to have no cap room. And it's not just void year. It's void years.
Yeah. We're talking...
They're going to pay a steep price. They're going to fall off a cliff, and that cliff is going to be Everest because of all these void years. And it's every impact veteran. So it's CMC, Trent, Kittle, Fred, all of them. They're all going to get that CMC extension. They're all going to have void years, and the Niners are going to pay a steep price for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like right now, really suck. But Kyle's not going to worry about that because he'll be on to his next team. He'll have been fired.
You think he's done by then? So we're talking about void years into 2027, 2028. I mean, we're about to ride it. It's about to be a really long couple of years.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good and competitive for 2, maybe 3 years, and then they're going to go off a cliff, and void years are going to hit.
Yeah, I agree.
And so if they miss the playoffs 2 years in a row, then they'll say, okay, Kyle's played out. By that time, he will have been here such a long time that you can start to build the narrative of his message is no longer getting through to his players. When the reality is that this was cap mismanagement that caused it.
Yeah, I mean, well, Tom, I'm going to tell you this right now. We might as well timestamp this during the show because that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be, Kyle's voice has grown stale, and it's going to be like, no, you cooked the books. That's what you did.
You paid the veterans, and you hung on to the veterans too long, and now you have to pay the price for that in void years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that's the deal you make with the devil is I want to compete for Super Bowls, and then when I can no longer compete for Super Bowls, it's even better that the team sucks anyway, because then we can get early draft picks and rebuild the team.
Yeah.
But I have to wonder at that point if Shanahan will be around to see it. I don't think he would. If there's 2 years of no playoffs, I think that then the narrative is rolled out that Kyle's message is no longer getting through.
Yeah. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We don't want to take out the torches and the pitchforks just yet, because that's exactly what's going to happen. What we will do is we'll just switch out pitchforks and trade them for tiki torches, because Brock Purdy is was reported by ESPN's Bill Barnwell, where he's predicting that Brock will be getting $65 million a year. Number one, how does he arrive at this price tag for Brock, and is it realistic? I had this conversation yesterday. $65 million is, first of all, I just think that that's incredibly disingenuous to have this type of premise because 65 million is like the best of the best. Okay, that's as good as it gets. So
it's the ceiling.
Thank you. So I think starting it out at 65 million automatically puts anybody who doesn't agree with it in complete defense mode, and anybody who slightly agrees with it, you're going to be looked at as a complete cuck. So it's like it's a horrible number, but around there, $65 million. Do you see this happening?
No. I think that Dak is going to get 60. That's what the talk is. Mm-hmm. And the market will escalate just as other quarterback deals are made, so it could move up. But 65 is saying that, okay, the market is going to continue to rise at a staggering pace so that 65 is the norm, and that's what Purdy's market value will be. I don't think that that's necessarily true. The other thing that we need to factor in here is, okay, let's take a look at who Purdy's agent is. Kyle Strongen. He represents Trevor Lawrence. So look at the Trevor Lawrence deal. That's the baseline for Purdy. So 5 years, $275 million, $37.5 signing bonus, $200 million guaranteed. Out year in the 5th year, no dead cap hit. Average annual value, $55 million per. So what is this agent value? Guaranteed money while giving on the signing bonus. And you figure that, okay, if the market goes up, say 10%, that would put him at 60. And I would say that it's probably going to be in the high 50s. That would be where my guess would be right now.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I really do. I think 65 makes the conversation an argument, quite frankly. 50 is disrespectful to the market for what he's doing in the market. The times make the man, not the other way around. All right? The times make the man. That means that for what is going on in 2024 for NFL football, Brock has carved out a nice position for himself with the quarterbacks. All right. You can't go into yesteryear and start pulling Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers out of your ass and talking about Tom Brady. That shit's gone. It's 2024. Brock's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL today. And if you got a problem with that, go argue with a wall. All right. We got to assess what's put in front of us. All right. We could talk about all of the things that he's not, but you got to have the conversation. You have to at least legitimize that he's doing something for us to at least have the conversation. So if Brock stays consistent with what he's been giving us throughout his career, he's for damn sure going to get franchise quarterback money. All right. And that has nothing to do with his teammates. That has nothing to do with his coach. All of that matters because all of that doesn't matter because you can't name one quarterback who does not have those mechanisms in some way, shape, form, or fashion on their team. It's almost built in for a quarterback to be successful. Oh, but he's got a good offensive coordinator. No shit, Sherlock. Most NFL offensive coordinators are going to try to be good and be married with the quarterback. Oh my God, they put all of these weapons around him. You know what? It just so happens that it works over here. Everybody else is trying to do the same damn thing. What do you think they're doing with Kansas City? What do you think they're doing with Miami? What do you think they're doing in Detroit? They're trying to surround these guys with tons of weapons. All right. So Brock, in a way, gets demerits, or he kind of gets looked at. He gets, knocks for simply having the same vestiges of weapons that any other quarterback has. So I will say that 55. And I brought this up too, and I read some comments on the video where some people thought I was tripping, and I get it. But I thought that even, let's just say if 65 was on the table, I don't think Brock would take that. I think he'd be pragmatic, and he would understand. What do you think about that, Tom?
I think that he's aware of what his market image is and where his promotion money is coming from.
Yeah.
That there's a persona that's tied to Brock right now that would fade if he took $65 million.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at it in terms of total money in. And when you take in, okay, what kind of promotional deals can he get as the quarterback of the Niners? He should get plenty. And if he gets it with this persona, he'll make more money in promotions than he would if he got the $65 million. So you have to balance it out. And then the other factor is, here's his agent. His agent with Trevor Lawrence was $55 million. And so you've got an agent that wants to value the guaranteed money most,
Right.
It was $200 million guaranteed out of 275 total. So the agent is going to be focused on average annual value and guaranteed money. And I think that that's why we'll probably see the guaranteed money above 200 and the average annual value in the high 50s. I think there's a danger for Brock in going above 60 in terms of how he would be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
And so it might be that for the persona, for marketing purposes, he might want to be just below 60 or get to 60 within increases in the cap, but start your contract high 50s.
Yeah.
That would seem to me to be the optimal space to go in. But it depends on where the market heads. I mean, if the market goes up beyond that, then okay, you follow along with where the market leads you. But as the market stands right now, allowing for Dak's contract a little bit more, high 50s makes sense for Purdy. And we'll see if that's, sign Brock to 55-60 for Kyle Chipto. Yeah, that's about what I see. I see the same thing.
Yeah.
But
I don't
it's
mind
going to
about
depend.
this.
It will depend in part on what kind of signings happen between
Yeah.
now and the end of the season, and we'll see. But I think that would be a smart play for Purdy in terms of promoting himself.
Yeah, I agree. I think that part of Brock's success is going to be married to how Kyle wants his team and particularly his offense to operate and look at all times. I think that that's going to be. I see a good marriage between those two. I think Brock has the humility to know how to let Kyle be Kyle. You ever see a good marriage? My parents have been married over 45 years, right? They're coming up on 50 years. And
Great.
like one thing that I know that my mother does is she lets my dad have his little wins. Like, even though it's like, yeah, Dad, that's an L really. But it's my mom.
He thinks it's a W.
He thinks it's a W. She's savvy enough to pick her battles. She knows how he's built. She understands where his ego comes from. She understands where his pride comes from. And she doesn't mess with it. You know what I mean? Like, she understands.
Let him have his ego. She
let him have
he needs some space.
It's not a big deal to me. I don't even want it. So why would I fight you for it? Why would I fight you for something that I don't even want? And that's what I see. I see that intuitive nature in Brock, where he's smart enough to understand that there's somebody who's over me right now, but they don't necessarily have more intellect than I do. But just in this construct, you are the leader. So I'm smart enough to be able to have enough humility to understand that when you need me, I will take over. I will do exactly what I want to do. But those other little tropes that you've had with past quarterbacks, I'm not touching that stuff, bro. You want to be the guy at the end of the press conference that talks about what should have been, have at it. You want to put up your best 10 play script in the beginning and then run your little play actions all day. Have at it. I'm malleable. I'm adaptable. That's my strength, right? And I can see that relationship between Brock and Kyle flourishing.
Well, Brock has the self-awareness of his place in the organization and where Kyle perceives himself to be able to manage Kyle. As your mom manages your dad, it's the same thing. Is that he will let Kyle have battle W's but not win the war. When it comes to winning the war, Brock will make the decisions that ultimately decide the team's fate. So over time, and this is a conversation you and Grant have had before, where does Brock start to seize more control of the offense? I think he does over time when he becomes the clear leader of the team on the field. And then does it get to the point where Brock can then call the line protections? I think that's going to be a real point of maturity for Brock is, can he get to that point? And if he does, what's he going to do to change the team's fate? And I think Brock is smart enough to know that that'll take years, but that's before him. That's something he can do if he manages the relationship well. And so give Brock credit for his maturity in knowing what he needs to do to make sure that this relationship with Kyle works so the team can succeed and he can succeed.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. I think honestly, I'm really not worried about Brock getting paid. I think it's a big nothing, really.
The team will take care of him, and they know they have to.
Yeah.
The other factor in this is Kyle knows he can't develop quarterbacks, and he's got one that does what he likes. He's going to keep him, just like he keeps the veterans. Brock may not be a veteran, but he's going to be treated the same way. Of this is an asset that I need in order to succeed, therefore I'm going to keep him.
Yo, Alpha, you are nuts. Yo.
Killer to leave.
Yo, you're nuts. Yo, anyway, so KT. So, one thing that I would like to bring up too is one of the reasons why I don't think that Brock would fleece the team is particularly the point that you made, is that he understands that when you get paid, or when you're in how can I put this? It's like making money, like when you first get your first bag, you know what I mean? Like your first, I never seen this much money in my life. Like your first bag, and it completely changes everything. It shifts your life, right? What happens is that this is one thing that I notice, is that the things that I used to pine after, and when I was in certain stages of my life, are literally just laying around like ornaments now that I've gone on to the next level. And it's so much so that I don't make it my all day, every day. I just make it a part of my life what am I saying by this? What I'm saying is that you can go get literally every dollar that's afforded to you in a contract negotiation, and you may get that money. But what's more important to you? To literally have all of the money, or to have infrastructure built around the money, where now you have an organization that is good, that feels great about the deal that you have with them. All right. Now, not only do they feel great about the deal that you made with them, but sponsorship opportunities and you getting endorsed by the organization to pick up those sponsorship opportunities is almost implied, let alone falling in your lap. Past employment, for you being able to set up your own endeavors and businesses outside of the organization. The organization will facilitate your businesses, will help you to be able to kick things off so you can go make more money and independent money outside of the revenue stream that you currently have. All right. But if you just want the money, all right, and you just literally want it all, then you're going to have a tough road ahead. And guarantee you, dollars to donuts, you're not going to get all of it.
And you're going to get resentment that the locker room is going to say, because Purdy insisted on every penny, we had to get rid of this guy, this guy, this guy.
Yeah.
They're going to blame Purdy, not Kyle.
Yeah.
And he knows that. And so I don't think that he's going to push for every penny. And he optimizes his total value of all of his revenue streams by not taking every penny.
Yeah. It would be incredibly short-sighted to go into a negotiation where you're dealing with an organization that is so like, dude, they are entrenched in your life. You spend months upon months in that building. You rub shoulders with so many people in that building. It is not just football. When I see players who literally want just their money and nothing else, and they just are driving a hard bargain about their money, that lets me know that they're not utilizing all of the resources around them.
Yeah, and again, it's bad representation, that you need an agent that thinks in the terms that you're talking about. You have to create multiple revenue streams, not one.
Yeah, I'm saying, and I agree. It's like, why do you want all of this money? There's nobody that you've met in there that has kind of shown you how to live within your means with the type of money that they're making up there. What type of lifestyle are you living where you need all the money? Like, you got $26 million, $28 million. Like, what's going on? What's going on? Like, who are you talking to? Who are your mentors? Who has seen where you've been and they're almost a generation ahead of you and can tap you on the shoulder and say, Brandon, you want to be able to come back to the ring ceremony, man. Like, come on. You're not Brandon. This is your first contract negotiation. One of many, hopefully. But this is not the way you ingratiate yourself into the big boy club. You don't come in saying that I literally want everything that is due. Brandon, you're not helping yourself by doing this. You're going to get paid. You will get your money. But now you don't even understand this, kid. You're in a position of it isn't even if you get your money. This is all about how you get your money. You're going to get paid.
Right.
But in the way in which you go through this negotiation process is going to speak volumes to the entire league on how they're going to move with you. It's just not smart.
No. Well, it burns too many bridges. You need the people around you to succeed, and as you succeed, that generates new revenue streams. Nobody is there to tell him that, and so he continues to insist on every penny. We are where we are. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. We love you, Starks. Starks leaves these comments in our chat all the time, especially
Thank
in
you,
the
man.
comments. Starks is a really good follower of the show. Thank you so much, Starks. So
Appreciate it, man.
let's get into camp. Okay? Let's get into camp. So right now, we've got training camp observations. It's only been 2 days, man. All right. So there's not a lot of meat on the bone. But what I want to do is want to get into a couple of guys that have kind of stuck out thus far. Malik Mustafa and other young players like Jair Brown have shown promise, integrating well into the team schemes and contributing positively. What have you heard thus far about Malik Mustafa? And then I'm going to tell you what I've heard.
Well, I only know what I've heard mainly from what we've heard from Grant.
Right.
But I also know that what we saw of him from Wake. And coming out of the draft, I said, this is the best draft pick. This is the guy. And he's shown everything to this point to prove that. And it's because he's got range and he's got a lot of versatility in his game. That he can play the run, he can play the pass, he's got the speed to play center field, he's got the power to stop the run. And that's going to make it really hard for Talanoa to get back in the lineup. Mustafa is going to continue to set a level of play that's going to make the argument for him to stay on the field.
Yeah. I think that I think they penciled him in as a starter. He's playing with the second team now. I mean, he's a big body. I mean, the kid is big. He plays fast. He's conscientious. He's some of the most Malik Mustafa is some of my favorite film that I watched this offseason. Some of my favorite film. I mean, just easy watching film. He works every play, very hard, very easy to assess. Doesn't leave a lot of meat on the bone as far as like every play he's doing. He even fucks up at 100%. Like this kid is a ball player. I'm just being real, man.
No, it's true. It's true.
I think he's gonna be
everything's effort.
Yes, I think he's a huge effort guy. He's going to fit in like a glove to this defense because we need another bell cow. I'm calling for Malik Mustafa and Jair Brown to kind of be our new spirit animals on defense. I think that's what's going to happen this year. Jair Brown had such a good game versus the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. He had, in a short career, I know this may seem like hyperbole because he had such a short career. He's only played 1 year. But it was the best game of his professional career. Hands down, the best game. He was flying all over the place, tackling left and right, conscientious, communicating before damn near every snap. He would not shut up the entire game. I loved it, bro. Sacrificed his body near the end on Travis Kelce, took himself out the game. I got a feeling that our safety play is going to go back to that Jaquiski Tart, Jimmy Ward era. I really do. Yes.
They're both better players.
Talk about it, Tom.
I think that this is the future of the defense. Is the secondary, especially the young kids,
Mm-hmm.
are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Jair defines competitive greatness. He plays his very best ball when it counts absolutely the most.
Mm-hmm.
Rose Bowl, Super Bowl. He's there. He's playing. He's great. It's why I wanted to draft him. He was the guy I wanted them to pick in the year that he was drafted. He was my guy. It's just, I want Jair Brown. They got him. And I was through the roof. I just said, this is the competitive greatness guy they need. And he proved it right away. So I love what Jair is doing, and I think that he's just going to keep ascending. Mustafa, I see as a similar player in terms of his versatility. That there's so much that he can do. You can plug him in anywhere. You can play him strong. You can play him weak. You can play him in center field. You can line him up as a linebacker. You can blitz him. There's a lot that you can do with Mustafa, and they will. And they're going to need to. Now, part of this is that in moving to simulated pressure along with the rest of the league, you're going to need to utilize guys like Jair and like Mustafa. You're going to have to make it work.
Right.
Joshua, thank you. Don't need that visual.
Yo. So look, I believe in them both. And honestly, this gives Huff a reprieve. Huff, get better.
Yeah, give some time.
Yeah.
Take your time to make sure that you don't get re-injured.
Yeah. Don't rush your way back, Huff. We love you, but don't rush your way back. I really am. I'm really excited about what those guys are going to do together. Conversely,
you've got versatility in 3 young guys that can all play DB or safety, and that's going to help them. All of them can stop the run. All of them can cover.
It's going to be. I'm telling you, I'm not worried about our secondary this year. With Demo coming back, Renardo Green coming in. You said I've seen that Isaac Yiadom is flashed. I've seen that Mooney is back looking good. Then we got those 2 good young safeties back there. I think our secondary may be the leader of our defense this year. I'm hearing that Devondre Campbell is struggling, especially in pass defense. Got beat for it long.
Unfortunately.
It's not a surprise, but what honestly, I've been saying this all summer. I do not care about Devondre Campbell. I don't. What I care about.
It's attached to the coaching that he's on the sideline. He doesn't start.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I care about if Devondre Campbell makes the team because D. Winters or Jalen Graham did not supplant him. That is what I care about. If he looks bad, cool. We saw this coming. What we need to see is D. Winters and Jalen Graham doing something about it. And I haven't heard much about them this camp. It's only been 2 days. Let's go ahead and put that out there. But another look that I'm trying to figure out, how does that work? Also, we may have a little bit of a shakeup in the running back room. Because we found out that Isaac Guerrero went down with a hamstring injury. Is there any more reports on that coming out? Have you heard anything? I haven't seen anything as of late.
No, but he had a lot of hamstring problems when he was at Wisconsin before he went to Louisville. Mm-hmm. And Matt Barrows reported on this on Twitter, that he had a lot of hamstring issues at Wisconsin. And my take on Guerrero has always been that his value to the team is going to be as a kickoff returner only. He's not going to be much of anything beyond just a gadget guy that they can throw in for a big play here and there. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to be a part of the running back rotation. I think Jordan Mason is going to be that guy. So I'm not expecting much of anything out of Guerrero. And as a track guy, I know that Guerrero is a track guy playing football. He's Ronaldo Nehemiah. He is not Michael Carter, who was a football guy who also did track.
Yeah. Or Raheem Mostert.
Right. There's a big difference there. And Guerrero is the track guy. He's the speed guy. He's sprinter long jumper in high school. Great one. But that's who he is. That's what he's best at. Running back, I was never sold on Guerrero as a running back to begin with. I think that he's going to be a great weapon as a kick returner, but that's going to be it.
Yeah, I haven't seen him pop. I mean, you really look at his college career, he never really started. He never actually took over a run game when he was at Wisconsin. He damn sure didn't take it over when he was at Louisville. Right. I mean, he splashes. He gets a good opening. He gets a seam. He turns on that 4.3 speed and he's gone. He's a high runner, stiff, very stiff athlete, not necessarily fluid. And I can see where Kyle kind of thought, if I get this kid in open space, then he becomes somebody that can actually be feared and used as a decoy and, put on. But with the chronic hamstring injuries, I mean, from one, I kind of looked at him and said to myself, all right, he's not necessarily savvy. He's straight up and down, stiff as a board, but he could be an H-back. He could be a fullback. But with these hamstring injuries and him being so stiff, one thing about Kyle Juszczyk, I bag on Kyle a lot, but one thing I will say about Kyle Juszczyk is that he's a great fullback, and he makes amazing blocks due to his angles at the point of attack. But one thing that you have to have with being a really good blocker is you have to be flexible. You have to be. You just have to be.
The other thing is you have to be a great decision maker in your angles and your timing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Juszczyk is very good at. And it's one of the things that Guerrero, as a track guy playing football, is not good at. You look at his judgment and his decision making, every time he's looking to break the play out wide to get into space and go.
Right.
He knows that's who he is. But as a result, his decision making as a back is not see the gap, see the opening, and go. That's not who he is. It's kind of why I was surprised that they took him, because Bobby Turner always wants the guy that sees the hole and hits it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's hole, go. And Guerrero is not that kind of back. He's always itching around saying, okay, where's my opening to go wide? If you're always looking to go wide every single time, you're not going to be that valuable in this offense. And that's who Guerrero is. So you say he can be a fullback, he can be an H-back? No. You're asking a track guy to block. That's not going to work.
Yeah, he's a stiff athlete. I don't see it. Hopefully this is not a big deal. I'd love to see him still on the field. You don't want him hurt. Your best ability is availability. But just not something that I'm really putting that much stock into. I'm not really invested into the Isaac Guerrero storyline, to be honest with you.
He's a kick returner. That's it.
All right. So moving into a storyline that I do want to talk about real quickly, very quickly, is Ricky Pearsall is not here. And he's hurt. I got to be honest. One of the reasons that makes this germane is his physicality and him being able to get open against press man and being able to handle the NFL game was the only thing that we were talking about, that we were worried about with this kid. And here we are. He goes through a couple of tough months of training to get ready for the draft, and he's hurt. What does this mean? And not only this, though, but I've been bagging on BA all show, but I'm going to even throw one up to BA. I'm going to throw you a oop. This may help Brandon in negotiation.
It could, but I don't think that even if Aiyuk were to hold out, I think Juwan would be his replacement, not Pearsall. Even if Pearsall was healthy, I don't think that he would start. But that said, Pearsall has the one thing that he has to overcome in order to be a productive NFL player. He's got to be able to beat coverage. Can you beat press man? So, borrowing from Steely Dan, I say, Ricky, go lose that corner. From Ricky, don't lose that number. That's what he's got to do. And if you can't do that, what's your value? He can do all the other things that Kyle loves, but if you can't beat press man coverage in this offense, that's a real issue, especially if you're going to be the one that we're going to look to replace Aiyuk if they let Aiyuk go. So, limited value and a concern that you weren't able to hold up, and you've got hamstring issues working away from the facility. That's why it was listed as NFI. And those are the injuries that take place when you're not at Santa Clara. That's why it was listed that way. But yeah, it doesn't instill confidence. And the other issue is with an injury like that, they can say he's just going to miss the first block. Well, maybe. What's his status going to be after those 4 practice days? When you get back to Monday of next week, where's he really going to be? I'd be surprised if he's ready to go full, but hopefully he is, and we'll see. Yeah, Spaghetti. That's where I was. Leggett was who I mocked for them to take in the first round.
If they weren't going to go Xavier Worthy, I wanted Leggett.
Me too.
I liked Xavier Worthy, but if they were gonna do
Leggett
receiver,
most.
yeah, Leggett honestly is Debo and BA together, in my opinion. Not is sad. He does not run routes like BA, but
No one does.
Nobody. It would have been crazy. Tua just got extended. Hold on, we got to see that.
How much?
I got to see. Hold on. You better not be capping.
No, he's got a number here. 212.4 4 years.
What? How much is that?
A lot.
Hold on. Tua Tagovailoa extended. My apologies for the dead air, guys. 4 years, 198.5.
So it comes out, Scott says in the chat, it comes
49.6.
53. So 53 for average annual value.
All right, so 55 for Brock. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad. We're still on course. Right? Let's stop, Lee. Here goes Lee off the third turnbuckle. 60 at least. Stop it, Lee. Stop. Would you stop it?
Lee, hit the brakes, Lee.
Come on. Oy vey. Jesus.
60 at least. We'll see.
I'm walking here. Jesus.
I'm walking here. So Trevor Lawrence was 55. Tua is 53. So we're still on pace for Brock's deal to be high 50s. This hasn't changed anything of what you would expect Brock to get.
Yeah. I think. Yes, Tua is mid. I'm a Bama guy. Tua is mid. Tua is mid. He's mid. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. You know, he's middling. But, they had to pay him too. That's very true, Clisard. They had to pay him. There's no way. What are they going to do? What were they going to do?
And the Niners are in a similar situation with Brock. So it's what are they going to do? Who else are they going to turn to? The same thing is going to apply to whatever happens with Brock Purdy and his contract talks. Same thing.
Oh my God, Eric, man, Eric with like these great poignant comments. Purdy's contract is an iceberg, and the 49ers are at the Titanic. We got to find a way to make it work, though.
Eric, even though I might agree with you, I would still argue that, what do we think? I think that the value that Coach and I would provide is saying that what do we think is the most likely thing to happen?
Yes.
We're not the GM. We aren't Kyle. What is the most likely thing for Kyle to do? In my opinion, it's to pay Brock Purdy, and right now that looks like high 50s. If I'm the GM, would Brock Purdy be my quarterback? Probably not. But I'm not the GM.
Where do you think this puts Jordan Love now?
He can ask for a little bit more, but I don't think this really changes what's going on with Love.
He hasn't done enough.
No,
he doesn't even have Tua's resume. I think he's better than Tua.
But he's better than Tua, and he can argue that, and I think the Packers will value him more than Tua. I don't think that it's a situation where the Packers can say, well, Miami only paid Tua 53, so we're going to pay you 51. Nah. They're going to pay him more.
Okay. Silverado Kev, this is one of the friends of the show, man. This is my guy. Do you guys think Brock will leave some money on the table to ensure we keep as much talent around him as possible? You kind of came in. You're letting us know that you came in late to the show because we covered this earlier in the show. We both tend to think yes. A
little bit, and it's less about the talent around him and more about optimizing his promotion marketing streams.
Yeah.
But part of it will also be teammates, because you're going to need buy-in from your teammates. That if he asks for too much money, that his teammates can be resentful, especially if players are let go because of Purdy's contract. So I don't think that'll happen. I think Purdy will leave some on the table, both to help his own marketability and to buy in favor with teammates.
100%. So look, now that we've gone through a couple of topics, let's go to one last topic. This is the last topic of of the show. You know, I love giving Tom the spotlight because Tom is my guy. So there was
checks in the mail, Coach. Yeah, but thanks though.
Look, Kyle and Tim Kawakami discussion. Can the Niners win a ring with this philosophy? If not, why not? So here goes the deal. Kyle had his regular installment with Tim Kawakami, where they basically kind of do like a top-down 10,000-foot view of the season, right? They go over the offseason, they go over the draft, kind of the preliminary things that they've gotten together to get the offseason going and be able to get prepared for the season, kind of like a sit rep. Where are you? How do you feel about the season? Blah, 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 blah. Right?
State of the Niners before the season begins.
State of the Niners before the season goes. All right, all that stuff. So, with the comments, I'm going to go through a couple of comments that strike to actual football, process of developing our offensive line, and how Kyle thinks about this. So, indulge me. All right? So, I'm going to be speaking as Tim Kawakami first. Here we go. I believe it's so much easier to be a top 5 passing team if you're a top 5 running team. You don't do the number of attempts, but that's what allows you to play at a high level. Kyle replies, I will always, no matter what our situation, try to be 50-50 because I believe that's what's best to throw the ball. I do think at heart I will always want to throw the ball. I love throwing the ball, but I've coached long enough to know how much you need to run the ball before something bad happens. I've heard that narrative. I've heard the narrative that, that we're ignoring the O-line. If we felt the O-line was the best pick there's no doubt who we take. Speaking of the first round, that is. But there's some O-linemen there at the end of the first round that you feel have just as good a chance as a guy at the end of the second round. One's a higher prospect and might have a higher ceiling, but I'm not too concerned about the ceiling. I want to know if he's going to be a starting left tackle, a starting left guard, or whatever, a starting NFL player. And if you are a starting NFL lineman, I think we have a good team with you.
Okay,
right?
Let's stop it there and take this in chunks. So, sorry to take over.
No, go.
Okay. But in the article, I say, okay, so clearly what Kyle is thinking in terms of drafting offensive linemen is floor. And the floor being starting NFL linemen. And the problem with that is, okay, now you've got guys in the floor to the right of Trent Williams, and they're going up against players who are all pros on the opposite side of the defensive line. So if you have floor-level offensive linemen going up against all-pro defensive linemen, what happens? You lose.
You get a gap.
Especially in the playoffs. And that's part of the problem with this discussion is just keep in mind that when you hear Kyle talking about best roster in the league, that has to be put in context. And so, okay, so go ahead, Coach.
All right. So he then goes on to say, but if we have a bunch of NFL starting linemen and there's no one who can score points and we're not having that good of an offense, it's weird to me that I've never been on a team that was favored to win every game the whole year before the season started. And we've been listed as that 2 years in a row, speaking of the Niners. So what that tells me is people think we've got a really good roster. Well, if we were drafting only O-linemen, we wouldn't have as good of a roster. That is gaslighting right there. That's saying, come on, man. Oh, if we only draft, nobody's telling you to only draft offensive linemen, Kyle. Like, stop that. Like, correct. And if we don't get the other good guy, like, all right. So he goes on to say, taking offensive linemen in the early rounds is a safe NFL play, Shanahan suggested. You don't get criticized if you can shuffle off mediocre tackle to guard, a mediocre tackle to guard, or some other variation. Taking wide receivers or defensive linemen could be riskier, but those are the players that probably can do more to help win games.
Okay, let's stop all of that there.
Yeah, we're stopping.
Let's identify that as gaslighting 101 to begin with.
Yes.
Clearly.
I'm incredibly triggered. Wait a minute,
Coach. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So number one, this is what I love about this excerpt, because one is Tim Kawakami speaking. That was the former. That was the latter. And the former was Kyle. The former is, but if we have a bunch of starting NFL linemen and there's no one who can score points, what is harder to find? A running back or a left tackle? What is harder to find? A tight end or a right tackle? What is harder to find? A slot receiver or a starting center? What are we talking about? You can go get... So, wait a minute. We can go get linemen in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, right? Because those guys are good enough to start. Because you don't like guys with high ceilings. You only want starters. So why do you go after the receivers and the running backs in the higher rounds? Because of their ceiling. So you have
because he's the offensive coordinator.
Thank you. So I feel like the very rubric that you say you don't count for linemen is exactly the rubric that you use to go get high picks as receivers and running backs. If you think that, you can't tell me that you thought TDP was a starter. You would have to be going after him because of his ceiling. You can't tell me that Sermon was a bona fide day one starter. You can't say that. You would have to say, I drafted that kid because of his ceiling, because of his potential. Jalen Hurd, Dante Pettis. Come on, man. Solomon Thomas. But now all of a sudden, ceiling doesn't matter with O-linemen. It's about if he's a starter. And you go get your starters in the 5th and the 6th round. Come on, man. Make it make sense. Anyway, so Tim Kawakami, that is, goes taking offensive linemen in the early rounds is the safe NFL play, Shanahan suggested. What's wrong with being safe? They're saying safe NFL play as if it's like a negative connotation. Like what's wrong with being safe?
Kyle doesn't get credit for being safe. Kyle gets
there you go, Tom.
Swimming against the tide.
There you go. Safe ain't sexy.
That's why he invests in it. He wants to get the credit for, I'm Kyle Shanahan. I do things differently. I know football on a higher level. All of this feeds into ego, narcissism, etc. And it's also self-serving that you're designing the plays. You have players that you see in the draft tape where you say, ooh, I'd love him for this, for that. And you fall in love with the weapons and you ignore the offensive line. And what happens as a result? You get floor-level offensive linemen matched up in the Super Bowl against Chris Jones and they lose.
Why is he so performative? Everything's got to be a big bang. Everything's got to be, that was clever. That was so smart. The way they set that up, it's just like, bro, we be too busy being cute while they be too busy winning the game, bro. Like,
yeah, well, that's it. Is that it's valuing ego and narcissism over what wins games, and specifically what wins playoff games. What I was told in the Walsh era, playoff games are won and lost on matchups, and you are deliberately choosing floor players to go up against all pros, and they're losing.
Come on.
Let's look at the 2 Super Bowls. Jimmy Garoppolo in the first game, Kansas City, 1 for 9, 2 picks. Why did they lose the game?
O-line.
Because the O-line failed, because Garoppolo couldn't escape it, and because when the game was on the line, they couldn't convert. And so they had very short drives, or they had first play of the drive picks. Defense got gassed. Kansas City runs the table on them. All of this is because the defense lost energy because the offensive line couldn't stay on the field. That's on Kyle. That's on his offensive line philosophy. Now to the next Super Bowl. What happens there? 9 unblocked pass rushers on blitzes. How is that not the fault of the offensive line?
The last play of the game was an offensive line MA. Missed assignment. Last play of the game. MA. O-line.
There were plays where they had the game in their hands had they executed, And they failed because the offensive line failed. Why? Mismatches.
Kyle's the guy who everybody knows in the ER because he won't wear his motorcycle helmet because he thinks it looks awesome. It's like, oh, is that Kyle again? What do we got? Broken hip? Come on in the back, Kyle. You're still not going to put on that helmet, are you? You're still not, like, what is so wrong with, this is the thing that kills me. Let's finish the quotes before I've asked that question. Let's finish the quotes. All right. So let's recap Tim's last quote. Taking offensive linemen in the early rounds is the safe NFL play, Shanahan suggested. You don't get criticized if you can shuffle off a mediocre tackle or guard or some other variation, or maybe a quarterback, third overall pick. Do you get criticized if you shuffle that off? It's so funny how they have revisionist history, as if all they mess up on is linemen. Like it's hilarious to me. Taking wide receivers or defensive linemen could be riskier. But those like Ricky Pearsall, maybe, or Drake Jackson,
well,
maybe.
And that's where another point needs to be inserted, is that you have an all-star collection of weapons already, and yet you are still picking weapons over offensive linemen.
Yeah.
2 wide receivers, no offensive tackle in this draft. How is that defensible? And it's not about, I only want you to take offensive linemen. It's, I want you to apply balance. I want you to take offensive linemen and weapons. I want you to spend day 2 draft picks on offensive linemen. I want the roster to address its weaknesses.
Right.
It's the lack of balance that's the issue. That's what creates the mismatches, and the mismatches create the losses in the Super Bowl. It's all connected.
It's unreal. And then the last, it's like this was one, what is this? 1, 2, 3. This is 4 sentences, and just it is a beautiful sandwich of contradiction and nonsense. I have to read it one more time. Taking offensive linemen in the early rounds is the NFL safe play. Shanahan suggested you don't get criticized if you can shuffle off a mediocre tackle or to guard or some other variation. Nobody cares if an offensive lineman doesn't make it. That's cool. What about Mike McGlinchey? Taking wide receivers or defensive linemen could be riskier, but those are the players that probably can do more to help win games.
Well, that's speaking to ego. It's, I swim against the tide and I succeed. I have the great roster. I make the Super Bowl.
Start this season without Trent Williams.
Yeah.
And this will age like curdled milk. I'm gonna tell you, this will age like milk.
Well,
all right.
And let's Silverado Kev has just this golden quote. Got to read that.
Hold on, let's go. All right. So I wanted to get to supers at the end of the show. Is this a super? We're gonna get to it.
But it's exactly on point. It's exactly correct.
Well, let's do it. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Let's break regulation. Silverado Kev, $10. Thank you. We're just gonna get to the super chats now. We can argue both Super Bowl losses were largely because of O-line play. Thus my quote, Kyle would rather be wrong his way than right someone else's. Him not prioritizing O-line screams this quote. It is. We all know it's maddening.
That's exactly it.
It's maddening. It's the only thing that really gives me like the green light to go hard on Kyle every time I want to assess him, because it's like you don't take care of the offensive line at all. And you really believe that you're going to win games against, not only that, let's go a step further. We talk about matchups, right? But that doesn't just stop on the field. It goes to coaching too.
Yeah.
All right. And Kyle not only doesn't value offensive line, but he keeps losing to a coach who is one of the best offensive line evaluators the game has ever seen, in Andy Reid. Andy Reid values the offensive line. So it's not even the fact that he has his own philosophy, but he doesn't even have the self-awareness to understand who I'm going against and how that may have to alter what I believe in.
and how he goes about winning.
Come on.
It shows in it. And so Andy Reid values the line. Well, look at Kansas City as a perfect example of all of this. Why did they lose the Super Bowl they lost? Because they had OL injuries and they couldn't protect Mahomes.
They couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes. It was clear.
That's why they lost that Super Bowl. Why did teams lose 4 of the past 5 Super Bowls? Inferior offensive line. Learn from history.
Yeah.
Kyle can say, we have the best roster. We were picked to win every game. Yeah, in the regular season. What's this about? The issue facing your team is not winning championships. The issue for your team is we need finishers. Okay. Mm-hmm. You need to finish on the roster. What does that finishing require? Investing in your offensive line.
100%.
You're losing on the offensive line with your floor-based offensive lineman, right of Trent, against all pros. They're losing. It's why you lose the Super Bowl. Direct connection. Does Kyle see that? No, because he's invested emotionally and in his ego in junk piling the offensive line. He has quotes in his conversation with Kawakami where he brags about junk piling the offensive line in Washington.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we can get there. We can get there. You want to talk about it? Let's do it. Look at our run game everywhere. Look at our run game in Washington. I mean, we drafted Trent Williams. We had the 4th pick in the draft. Our left guard was cut from Denver. Our center was a practice squad player. Our right guard was a free agent that we got from Baltimore. And our right tackle we got off the street. And then our running back was a 6th round pick. And we rushed for more yards than the Hogs ever did with John Riggins and all of those big time Hall of Fame people. You had fucking RG3!
Thank you.
What are you talking about?
Thank you.
They just be letting these dudes say anything.
Well, because Kawakami can't call him on anything if he wants Kyle back. And that's the problem with a lot of this is there's a loss of journalism. There's people that aren't willing to call Kyle on it because they want access.
He really thought that was a flex. Like, he said that shit like, look what we did in Washington. It's like, dude, you had a track athlete at quarterback.
And how many of the rushing yards that you had total were from RG3?
Come on. Stop.
How much of that was RG3 creating something from nothing as opposed to your offensive line creating it for him? There's no context being applied. None,
bro. None. It's unreal. And this stuff is why he'll never get an O-line. It's like he's like, look at what we did in Washington. I'm like, yeah, you had one of the most athletically gifted quarterbacks the game had ever seen, and you burned his career in 1 calendar year to do it. But you want to look at it as, oh yeah, look at what we did with our offensive line. Look at what we did with this. Bro, stop. You churned and burned that whole year in 2012. Stop.
You took a guy who had Hall of Fame athleticism and you ended his career because you don't know any better.
Come on. Did you talk about how you had to switch the whole offense to the RPO to get those yards? Right. Did you talk about how you had to ditch your whole offense?
Yeah, and what's he doing? He's bragging that he's junk piled the offensive line.
Come on, man.
Part of this also goes back to, I think that Kyle pays too much attention or gives too much stock to the guy that invented the outside zone, who says you don't need to use a first-round pick on offensive lineman. You don't want guys with long arms. You don't need any of that. You just need dogs. And Kyle has taken that to heart. And so he says, well, the guy that invented the outside zone says I don't have to take an offensive lineman early. I can take one late. Kyle wants permission to do what he wants to do, which is overload on weapons because he's the offensive coordinator.
Dude, it's absolutely nuts.
It's infuriating because all you have to do is make that one switch. Now you can compete for championships.
Yeah.
The thing that gave me hope was for years they had invested heavily in the defensive line, but they were last in the league in picks and turnovers. Mm-hmm. And I was railing for years that you need to have ball skills in your secondary and that'll change. And everybody was yelling at me, no, you just need a defensive line, you just need to rush. Then Tart drops the interception. They finally invest in ball skills. What happens the next year? first in the NFL in turnovers, first in the NFL in picks.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. And this is another case of duh. All you have to do is balance out your investment in the draft, invest in your offensive line, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Now you can win championships, but you don't because your ego is too invested in junk piling your offensive line. And you convince yourself that you got those rushing yards because of those guys when it was RG3.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, and God love Alfred Morris. I'm a big Alfred Morris fan.
I like Alfred Morris.
But a lot of that came from the fact that they had to scrap that entire offense and go to the RPO just to survive, to win 6 games in a row that year. It's just so funny how he chooses to pick that year of all years to talk about the rushing game. It was like, dude, that's all you guys could do. You had Aldrick Robertson, Pierre Garçon, like, stop.
Well, and beyond that, it's the offensive line wasn't the root cause of your success.
Yeah.
RG3 was the one that got your yards.
Yeah.
So who are you kidding, dude?
Yeah.
So what I say in the article is I conclude very point blank, matter of fact, and I think I backed it up in the piece.
Okay.
Until Kyle changes his philosophy, this team will not win a ring. So Eric is talking against everybody else on Purdy. They won't win a ring. It doesn't matter, Eric. They're still going to lose anyway because the offensive line, regardless of who the quarterback is not good enough to win a championship. And until Shanahan changes that philosophy, they have no shot. They will continue to lose.
Well, Eric, you're more than welcome to come on the call-in show and let us know how you feel. We know you got. Yeah, have you seen Eric's call-in shows? Has call-ins? Bro,
no,
Eric's a beast, bro. You better watch out, Tom.
I know. I like Eric. I like Eric a lot. All I'm saying is that I agree with Eric for the most part on Purdy, but it misses the bigger picture. Kyle's philosophy on the offensive line prevents the team from winning a championship, no matter who the quarterback is. They'd still lose.
Yeah, I agree. Cynthia, hey sis, you're such a good addition to the show. I just wanted to point out we don't get a lot of fans of the fairer side that are always joining us, and you're so diligent. I just wanted to just reach out to you and just tell you that we're just so appreciative of your engagement. But Tom, this is another good one, man. How do you feel, bro?
I love this one. I thought we had some good stuff to say, some valuable things.
Yeah.
And appreciate the opportunity to talk about the article. Eric says the Chiefs gave up more pressure than the Niners. The O-line is not a logical excuse. I would say it is. 1 for 9 with 2 picks is on the offensive line. It's why they lost. 9 unblocked pass rushers, especially on plays where you could have won the game and failed because of the offensive line. That's on the offensive line. It's not about comparing to Kansas City. It's about you can't execute because your offensive line isn't good enough. You lose on mismatches. It's about the Niners only. They can't win a ring until that is fixed.
I'll tell you this. Comparing the Chiefs' pressure of compare the Chiefs' offensive line to the Niners' offensive line is like comparing quarterbacks. They don't face each other. They don't compete against each other. The only difference is that the pressure that the Chiefs' offensive line was giving up had Patrick Mahomes behind it, and the pressure that our offensive line was giving up had Brock Purdy behind it. Take your pick. It's the O-line.
And it was coming off of simulated pressure where they were unblocked pass rushers. That's the difference. Did Kansas City give up 9 unblocked pass rushers on blitzes? No.
Yeah. It is what it is, man. But Tom, we're back. Football's back. We're in here to stay.
You're heading to camp next week. That's going to be great.
I'm going to camp. Yo, let's talk about it. I'm flying out to Santa Clara tomorrow. I will be at camp. I will be at least at 3 practices trying to work on the 4th throughout the week. Me and you are going to do the faithful review from Santa Clara. We both going to be West Coast, baby.
Well, I'm not going to be in Santa Clara until the following week.
Dude,
I'm in San Jose on the 8th.
See, this is where we gotta work on.
We gotta work on our coordination, but you're gonna be there.
So look, you could have lied and just let me say whatever I could, and then we could have just talked about it later. But we're gonna work on that, Tom. We're gonna work on it. So, look, Tom just stepped all on my shit. Like, hold up, I'm not gonna beat it. So, nah, but look, it's gonna be a great time. I can't wait to get out there and honestly get some good content for our little section of the fan base. So it's gonna be a good one, man. I can't wait for it, bro. And we're gonna be able to talk from the horse's mouth. Me. Right. Like, no more of this. We heard from somebody. I'm going out there. We're doing it live.
Your own eyes. Right? Your eyes.
Hey, bro. It's always a good one, bro. You know, you my guy. It's time to roll out, man. This is a coaching time. You know how it goes, man. Stay low and keep your feet moving, man. Keep your feet moving, y'all. Talk to you guys, man.